So we're going to get started. My name, if you haven't met me before, or haven't seen me in one of your classes before, I'm Tony Gabrielli Phelan. I am with Career Services here at Daniels for undergraduate students. So thank you all for coming and staying on top of your DPDP requirements. I think you're going to get a lot out of these major Monday sessions if you haven't been to one yet. And tonight we're doing Business Information Analytics major. So you'll hear a little bit about the minor as well, but we're going to focus a lot on the major. Feel free to ask questions at the end. We've got some Career Services folks in the room. We've got people from undergraduate programs in the room. So lots of knowledge in here. And so Kelly's going to present to you, and she'll kind of give her own introduction, and then we'll get started.
All right, so my name is Kelly Keeling. I'm the undergraduate advisor, so I'm pretty much in charge of all of our analytics majors. This is brand new as far as analytics as a major. We had our very first undergraduate majors graduate last spring. So we had about 20 kids that actually finished. So we have a kind of an exciting program. It's a new program. We're kind of constantly sort of updating it and trying to change it to kind of figure out what exactly is going on with analytics. Just to tell you a little bit about myself, I actually have a math degree. So my undergrad wasn't even in the College of Business. It was in math. I realized I liked numbers and playing with stuff. I never even actually saw statistics until I got my MBA. So once I finished with my math degree, I realized I could sort of teach elementary kids or maybe high school kids, but I was going to have to go back and get a master's in math. And I realized that wasn't really what I wanted to do. Another thing that you can do with math and statistics is actuary. How many people have ever heard of an actuary before? So like an insurance risk kind of adjust thing. So that was one of the things I thought that I might want to do, because I knew it had something to do with statistics and basically sort of predicting how likely you were to die. And so that's where you come up with insurance rates and stuff like that. So I actually went back to school and got my MBA, and I started taking computer programming classes. And I started realizing that I really liked computers. I liked sitting and coding and trying to figure out how to solve things. And I actually worked at a university in something called institutional research, and that's the people that keep track of all you guys and figure out how many people graduate and figure out how many people take certain degrees, and they have to report statistics out about all types of things about you guys. They have to report that back to state agencies and people that give them money. So I started doing all this reporting, and I realized I don't really know what I'm doing. I know how to make summaries of it, and I know a whole lot about mathematical proofs, but I don't really know how to use these numbers. So I decided to actually go back and get my doctorate degree in something called management science. And so one of the things I'm wanting to show you is that this field is sort of has a lot of different names to it. When you start looking at jobs and when you start looking at maybe even majors for a master's program, you're going to see a lot of different titles. They may not all say analytics. You might see something under a math department called applied statistics. You might see something called operations research or operations management or management science. So it's kind of crazy in that we're taking a whole lot of disciplines and we're kind of putting them together and kind of trying to figure out what that means. And for us, we've kind of focused in on a very specific mesh of information systems and statistics. So a few years ago, we actually had two majors. We had those two, and we've actually blended those into analytics. So that's kind of where we are and sort of where the history and some of the different fields that have sort of come together. And what we're going to look at now is sort of what it takes and what we've kind of done to combine those things in order to come up with our analytics major. So I'm going to start it off with this lovely little Dilbert cartoon. I'll give you a second to read it. So we see there we have a lot of buzzwords in there. Do we have any actionable analytics from our big data in the cloud? And we see that's probably something you've even seen just like in commercials. You see Watson Analytics. You see companies like IBM talking to you about their analytics things. A lot of buzzwords, a lot of jargon is actually happening in our field, and part of our goal is to sort of dispel that down and kind of figure out what exactly analytics means to us, because I think you'll find it kind of means different things to different people. So what we consider analytics to be is that process of taking data, trying to transform it in some way, and hopefully being able to make an insightful business decision. So we can do a whole lot of stuff with numbers, but if we can't actually tell someone else what to do with it, then we haven't really gained a whole lot. So what we think is that analytics is a pretty challenging and pretty fun and exciting and new field that basically helps people to make more informed decisions. So it allows people to make those decisions not only on their gut, but also perhaps backing it up with some data. So we have sort of taken analytics and divided it into sort of these 4 component parts. We begin at the top with data acquisition and management. So these topics would typically be taught in an information systems or information technology type of department or area. We're taking that and then we're putting that into our statistical analysis and modeling types of classes. So many people in here have already taken Info 1010. Okay, what about 1020? Okay, a few of you. How many have had like AP statistics or high school statistics? Okay, so some of you kind of already have a little bit of flair, but some of you may not even really know exactly what statistics actually means. Here's where we're going to take some data that's been collected. Say I have a business and I have all this great stuff about my customers, and I know how often they've come to my website and what they click on after they get to my home page. I know what they buy and how often they buy and how much they buy. And I take all that and I try to figure out then if I have a brand new customer, what might they do? I try to use that information to sort of summarize maybe what my customers are. I describe them, but I also try to predict. I try to move that into the future. So I'm going to use some statistics or some modeling techniques. We also call that predictive analytics to try to make those leaps into the future. Another big part of what we look at is actually communicating our results to other people. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense if we kind of have our own little community here and we have our own little special words like p-values and hypothesis testing and no one else knows what we're talking about. That's not really very useful. So we have to figure out a way to be able to make a cool PowerPoint that maybe has a really cool graph on it that actually communicates what we figured out. So we can give that to someone else that maybe is a little higher up than us that they can actually make decisions. So we talk a lot about figuring out the best way to visualize our results and also maybe write up something to give someone some help to finally make that last part, which is a business decision. So when we designed our classes, we basically have these 3 pillars. The bottom there is business. And the degree sits on top of a BSBA, so we know you're getting a good foundation of marketing and accounting and finance and management, whatever the other one is, yes. So we have a lot of that sort of underpins what we are doing. We have then on top of that the data collection, the management, the cleaning of it. Sometimes people don't always put in stuff like we would like them to. Sometimes people code things different ways. They might use abbreviations. So we have to figure out how to fix that. And then hopefully we can do some kind of statistics or modeling in order to make some actual cool results. As far as our actual courses, our major has 11 required courses. It sits on top of the business core in Info. So we have a 3-course sequence of Info 1010, which is your basic data management and a beginning look at statistical summaries and descriptive analysis and basic charting. Also like pivot tables in Excel. Next we have your basic business statistics. So again, if you had high school statistics, there would be a lot of similarities in that. The main difference is we don't really use a calculator, we use Excel. So we're going to implement it a little bit different than you might have before. We finished that 3-course sequence with something called 2020, which is a modeling class that gets into advanced regression, simulation, and something called optimization. So those components there then actually get expanded out quite a bit as we look into our actual course sequence. So if we look at, see if I can get my cursor to actually be over here. There we go. If we look right over here, in the top right, that is actually where our course sequence begins. So for those of you that are sophomores, what you're going to do is you're going to come back next year in the winter and you'll take those 2 classes. So we have a pair set of classes. There's a co-requisite involved. The first one is called Automating Business Processes, and this is your intro to coding class. So if you've had some coding before, you're going to see some similarities with that in any language you might have had. We focus on Visual Basic behind Excel. So we basically figure out how to do some really cool things with Excel. We make our own dialog boxes come up, we can analyze data, we can make models, we can create charts from that in order to help our users get a little bit more automated in their results. And we also do a little bit with dashboarding. After that, you take, concurrently with that, you take what's called Foundations of Information Management, and that is a basic database class, and the software we use there is mainly Microsoft Access. So you've had your certification in Word and Excel. In that class, you'll get certified in Microsoft Access. As you move down, the next class you're going to take is Enterprise Information Systems, and this one actually gets into really advanced databases, a much bigger scale, using something called SQL Server. And you'll also, most likely, that next spring, you'll take a data mining and visualization class. So here's where we get into more advanced statistical techniques, and also focus a lot more on trying to visualize our results. The red side is kind of the more information systems types of classes. The blue side is going to be a little bit more of your numbers, quantitative analysis type of classes. We move down, you're going to get to a data warehousing and business intelligence class. So this is a more advanced database class that really makes sure you understand the structures and how to scale a database to a very large company. And also there's a lot of tools built into most database software these days to actually do some data mining and modeling. So you're going to have a little bit of experience with those. We also have a project management and simulation class that you learn about how to kind of design a really large project, how to manage multiple phases, how to predict how long those projects might take, and that's really where the simulation component comes in. You then move to something called complex data analytics. This is a really broad title, and it's specifically there to be like, what's the cool thing we're doing now? So right now we teach text analytics. So how do I analyze like all those write-in responses that people put in a survey? You know, I can't really take the mean of that. How do I figure out how to get information from that? We do a lot of stuff where you have to figure out some hierarchies and some topic maps so that you can code whatever words they might have typed in. Maybe they said like, my noodles were gummy or gooey or creamy. Is creamy good? I don't know. It kind of depends on what you're wanting there. There might be like a whole set of words that we would all put together that say like something was wrong with the noodles, and then you might have a whole nother category of things like yummy and tasteful, things that would be on a more positive side. The other part of that class is social network analysis. So looking at like Twitter data and Facebook data and other types of digital marketing data, trying to see how people are connected and perhaps how they have decided to buy our product based on the different networks that they are in. We have an optimization class. How many people have taken 2020? I don't think I asked that question. So most of you probably not. So that kind of expands on the optimization part of 2020. We get a little bit more advanced outside of Excel, a little bit more specialized software that lets you do a lot more than in the confines of Excel. So this is going to allow you to do things like, how do I figure out what the optimal schedule is for my call center? You know, I have these people, they have these skills, I have to have coverage 24 hours a day, but I know that like people don't all call in at the same time. Is that lunch is really busy, maybe early in the morning is really busy, but like at 3 a.m., you know, I just don't have that many, but I have to have at least a little bit of coverage. And so every person that I have, maybe they can actually discuss 3 different products. And so how do I lay all that out? How do I take all that information and figure out what I want to do? Another big part of that is transportation problems. I recently saw that Amazon's going to put a new distribution center here. How did they decide to do that? How did they figure out where the distances are to the airplanes and to the trucks and where things actually get delivered? How do you decide where to actually locate a distribution facility or a retail facility? So that just double checking, takes us through all the required courses except for the capstone. You'll have 2 elective courses. A lot of people will do an internship, particularly in the summer, to kind of finish out one of those electives. We also have things such as some programming classes like in SAS or R or Python. We have a sports analytics class that we're going to offer next spring. And in the fall, we have something called database-driven websites. So how do you create a website where the back end is actually a database? So it actually changes based on what the user is doing and perhaps even displays information from a database, as well as the content can be very flexible. The capstone project is the very last thing that you'll do. So that's our spring senior year class that we have. What we're doing in this class is we have a big project. So far, like I said, we had about 20 people graduate last year. We have about 30 that are going to graduate this year. So we still just have 1 class for the capstone. We have 1 big data project that we work on. Last spring, we worked on the bus data for RTD. So we had, for 2015, we had all their bus routes, all their start and end times as they went from stations as well as bus stops. We could see if they left early or late. We could see the number of people that were getting on. And so we did a lot of really cool things with them to help them model and kind of make some decisions about some of those routes. Where are things good? Where are things bad? Where do we have perhaps things that could be more spread out? Where do we have lots and lots of people riding? This spring, we are working with a company that has some rideshare data. This company, I won't tell you who they are quite yet. We're still kind of getting the final details set up, but it's someone that's been testing in Houston. So it's kind of an Uber competitor to try to figure out how much or how many drivers they need, sort of like what has been the response time, how do you lay people out. So I think there's going to be a lot of potential there with sort of some network analysis as well as just some basic modeling. So that kind of gives you the overview then of the types of classes that you'll take. I'm going to change the focus a little bit and talk about the types of skills that hopefully either you already see in yourself or that you would be like, whoa, this is the type of thing I would like to develop in myself. We have first just sort of your basic needs in quantitative modeling. So that's what we're going to be teaching you. We'll give you some of the basics in probability statistics, modeling, visualization, optimization, and so forth. You also have to have a desire to really want to use software. So we're going to throw a number of different packages at you. You don't want to be the person that's like, I'm only good with Excel. Please only show me Excel. Every class will probably throw something new at you and maybe a couple things because we want you to see different ways to actually do and perform modeling. You need to be able to think really logically and critically and not get too disappointed when things don't work out. This is a very creative field. You have to have a lot of curiosity. If you don't like look at something and think, oh, what if this? Oh, maybe I could program this way. What if I could collect different type of data? Could I answer different types of questions? If you don't have that passion of constantly trying to figure out what if, this is probably not going to be a really good fit. If you need someone to tell you, this is the formula and it's always A, B, C, D, and then you get F, it's probably not going to be a happy place for you. So you want to be someone who's really kind of creative and inquisitive and willing to just keep trying. A lot of the things that we do don't really have a right answer. So some of my students get sort of frustrated. I'm teaching a programming class right now in Visual Basic, and we, as part of the class, will bring our completed code, and you got 4 people sitting there with you, and we all look at it, and everybody's kind of amazed that everybody does it differently. And that's perfectly fine. There is no single right answer to most of the stuff that we're actually doing. You do need to be able to work with others. So in general, you're not going to be a single person that's responsible for data and modeling at a company. You're going to be part of a team. You're going to have to be able to go and ask people, perhaps, that are in a functional area that you're not familiar with, hey, how does your processes work? What kind of data do you have? You're going to be able to get information from them as well as be able to come back to your group and kind of really dig deep. You needed a good understanding of mathematical concepts and again, be really kind of comfortable with that. You have to be able to communicate and also be able to understand a different range of perspectives. Analytics can be applied to like all kinds of stuff. So when you finish and you get done and you say, okay, I have an analytics major, you're going to get a job in something else. You're going to get a job in marketing or finance or healthcare or forestry. You're going to be analyzing data in some application area. So you're going to have to be able to potentially communicate with a wide range of people that have a lot of different application background experience. And then finally, you got to have some good detail orientation. So here are some job titles of our recent grads. So as I mentioned, this is new. So we just had our first 21 folks graduate in the spring. So these are the types of things that they got jobs in. One of the things I want you to note, kind of hearkening back to my beginning, is that it is still a little bit difficult to try to find job titles maybe under the title analytics. That you may not necessarily see that. So you're going to have to be a little flexible and broad in the way you search for things. A lot of people have the title analyst, but in some cases that doesn't really take full advantage. If you look at some of the job descriptions, basically they're just running reports. By the time you're done with this degree, you're going to be able to do a lot more than that. So you want to make sure that description of the job really matches what you want to do. So analyst in and of itself isn't enough. So make sure to kind of dig deeper. So as you can kind of see here, we do have a number of people that actually have the title business analyst. Most of these are taking some kind of data in some sort of functional area and making some predictive modeling types of decisions. We have a number of people that went to consulting jobs, which means they work for a company and they're going to be applying their skills to lots of different industries. We also have a lot of people that go in the IT area, so they're a little more on building databases or processing or helping other people get the data they need to actually make the models. And then lastly, we've had a number of students, I think we had 2 or 3 actually from the spring, that double majored in finance, and they specifically went and got very financial analyst and banking and tax type of job positions. Just as a side, we do have a minor that seems to be fairly popular. So as I've mentioned, analytics is a tool. It needs to be applied to some other subject area. So it fits really nicely with something like marketing or finance. Accounting would also be another side area. But it also fits really well with things like political science or things that are outside of the College of Business. So we have a lot of computer science and math and economics people that come and get the minor. If you were interested in the minor, if you already started on your finance major or accounting major or something like that, all you have to do is add on 4 classes. So it's a fairly achievable major. So once you figure out that you kind of like 10-10, 10-20, and 20-20, that's when you want to start kind of delving deeper and see if it looks like it's going to be good for you. So key classes that you want to make sure you get, obviously that 3-course sequence. If you're gonna be a major when your junior year, which I don't really care about your hours, but I'm saying like the year before you're gonna graduate, so that winter of the year before, your 3rd year, let's say, then you wanna make sure that you're taking our 2 classes that are required. Most people take those together. So our 3100 and our 3120. If you don't get that started that junior year, you're not able to finish our sequence, so that has to happen. If you want to be a minor, that's also another thing to aim for, but you could take one of those your junior year and one your senior year. Those are the only 2 things that are required. For the minor, you'd have to pick up 2 other ones. The other main thing is we are only offering the capstone in the spring right now, so you have to make sure you're planning to stay around for that final year, that final semester in order to get that capstone. This is our basic sequence. So again, in general, you're going to have that 3-course all the way to Info 2020 done by your fall of your junior year. You can actually shove that in the winter of your junior year, so you can take that as a co-requisite, but otherwise you're going to take those 2 that I've mentioned several times that winter. There will be 2 courses in the spring, 2 in the fall of your senior year, 2 winter, and then 1 in the spring, and then you're going to have 2 electives. Most of our electives we are offering fall and spring and summer. So that's kind of how we have them set up. We have some hybrid options for summer as well as some online. Those are typically some coding classes, just kind of some extra tools classes that we have. We also, as I mentioned, have a lot of people that do an internship in the summer. Some student groups that we have. So we do have a BIA club. It is a joint club that is actually run right now by the Masters in Business Analytics. But we have joint activities. They have speakers that come in, and we also have social hour where they'll bring some former Masters students in that are out in the job world that you can kind of network with. A couple of organizations, if you're just trying to figure out some more about what is this field, there's something called INFORMS, which is the Institute for Operations Research and Management Science. Again, that has not the word analytics in it at all, but those are the older names for this field. I've put a link there that has some basic career information, and then also the American Statistical Association. Again, that statistics is still out there. A lot of that is built under the math department and maybe a little more theory-based, but they have a sub-area with things that are called data science or analytics that would be very applicable to what we have. We're also looking at having another student organization called an Inform, or having a student chapter of Inform. So that should happen probably in the next year. Some events that we do hold that kind of fall within our major. We have an analytics challenge. This will be our 4th year to have it. Actually, the deadline to submit your stuff, I think, is Wednesday. So if you haven't got started on that, it may be a little bit too late for you this year. But we have cross-functional teams. Anybody actually at DU can submit. We've had people from computer science and people that have friends maybe in graphic arts that made a nice display of their results for them, even though they weren't actually analytics people. But we have cross-discipline teams that compete at DU. You compete and submit, and we have finalists, and the final, the top choice from DU will then compete against teams from other schools. So we've had Air Force, Colorado School of Mines, and CU so far that have come in, and we're hoping to have a couple other schools this year. So it's kind of a cool event. Not only do you get to participate in the actual challenge, we have our reception down in the tech center at one of our consulting analytics companies. And so it's a really nice kind of networking opportunity, as well as have a chance to play with some data. We have panels with analytics companies set up by career services that usually come around. And we also have an annual dinner with our BIA advisory board. So these are people that are in industry in the Denver area that help to support our department and help to tell us what kind of classes we should be teaching and what kind of skills students need in order to get hired. So these are some really neat people to meet, and we always do that usually in January every year. So with that kind of winds up my comments that I had. Again, and for those of you that came in late, I'm Kelly Keeling. I'm the undergraduate advisor. So if you have some comments or you want to speak with me offline, I'm definitely available over in the department office as well as by email. Our department chair is Andrew Urbachevsky. You can also reach out to him. And I think now we'll just open it up for questions. Yes?
For the minor, if you're a business major, so I'm a finance business major, would Info 2020 count as one of the electives?
So it does not. So the question was, if you're a finance major or any of the other majors, you actually cannot count the 2020.
Okay.
So that is just to allow us to be able to force people to take 2020 bottom line. So that little caveat in there. So yeah, you still have 4 classes you have to take. Yes?
So similar question, if you're a major in BIA, can you do a minor in BIT or statistics? Or?
There may not be enough classes.
Okay.
I would say for sure BIT is not an option. Depending on how many electives we might come up with, potential for the statistics, I would suggest going elsewhere. Okay. Go pick up marketing, go pick up something else that would be a good mix. Yes?
How well would you say the minor prepares you in comparison to the major for real world analytics?
So how well does the minor prepare you for real world and analytics? So basically what you're getting with the minor, you have all those info core stuff. So that's kind of a real basic what everybody needs to know about analytics and statistics. We require you to do 1 coding class and 1 database class, which is sort of your basic entry level into analytics. So that gives you some good foundation. And then you have 2 other classes that we allow you to a little bit more flexibly choose based on perhaps what your interests are. We have a non-parametric class, which is really good for survey statistics. So if you were a marketing major, you probably would want to pick that one out, and that would help you then to do marketing analytics. So we're giving you a real basic set of things. You would be missing some of the what we consider tools that you would need. So you might not get simulation, you might not get advanced optimization, you might not get the visualization class. So you probably will have some holes, but you will have enough to where you should be able to fill those in if you suddenly find that you need them by taking that base of the programming class and the basic database class. So it's definitely not equivalent, but particularly if you have another application area you really want to apply this to, you can sort of cherry pick those two electives to give yourself a little bit better boost. Yes.
You said internship can replace one of the elective credit, and how it works?
Okay, so internship can replace one of your electives. So basically, if you have an unpaid internship, you can just give us a summary of your internship. You have to fill paperwork ahead of time. The main thing is you can't do it retroactive. So you need to sign up with us ahead of time. You're going to do an internship. You complete the internship. You do a summary paper. Your supervisor gives us a letter. Then you're good to go. If it's a paid internship, if you actually get money for it, then we require an academic component. Sort of like you kind of got paid for it. If you're going to get academic credit for it, you need to do a little bit extra. So we have a project or research paper that we will agree upon with you that you will complete during the course of your internship. It's usually related to something that you're learning about in your internship. For example, I had someone that was doing something at a company that actually was studying something that's called quality management, TQM, total quality management. So it's like a subset of operations types of techniques. That is actually not something we teach. So she actually created a paper about that topic, went and researched it, kind of learned a 10, 15-page research report on that topic to kind of support some of the stuff that we hadn't taught her, but yet she was using in her job. So that type of thing. So it's not that difficult, and we definitely encourage you to do that if you're a major.
Do you have to pay to get the credits for the internship?
So those would be regular class credit.
Okay.
The career, is it Career Services that offers the scholarship for the summer? Do you want to?
Yeah, so we do have a need-based scholarship. It's called the Taylor Internship Scholarship. So if you're interested in that, you can talk to us about that. Not everyone qualifies, but it's definitely an option. And then there may be some other scholarships coming down the road related to internships. But yeah, come and talk to us and we can tell you more about it.
So potential scholarships, particularly for summer. The summer is harder because it's out of the normal tuition. Yes?
So in your opinion, what are some good minors to combine with BIA major?
So marketing, for sure. Does hospitality have a minor? Yeah, so that sounds good. They minor in our class because there's a lot of hospitality majors that minor in analytics. Finance, for sure. So finance and marketing, I would say right off the top. The other one that I have that's been most popular is people will do math and computer science. If you're a little more quantitative, we're preparing you for business analytics. There is another side that's going to be a little more technical out of the computer science, data science-y, machine learning. You're a little bit more on like making the best algorithm ever to predict something, whereas we're probably using a tool that already exists to predict something. So if you have a little more quantitative focus, I would say computer science or math if you have your calculus and stuff, and you can go and pick up that math minor.
Thank you. All right, so I'll just add something. So I'm Pat Perrell. I run career services here for the college. So I want to thank Kelly and the Business Analytics Department for putting this on. So one of the interesting things she says, right, we just graduated our first set of majors last year. So I go, why do we need this? What's happening, right? And companies are literally drowning in information, right, that they never really had access to before. So if you think about a jet engine, right, on a passenger plane, right, one of these big engines that GE builds, right, it pumps out thousands of pieces of data every minute, maybe even every second. I'm not sure how fine it is. You know, and they don't know how do you even deal with that, and what do you do with it, and what decisions do you make on it, right? Vail Associates, right? All of your ski passes have an RFID tag. They can measure to the minute every single person going up a lift. What do they do with that information now? They never had it before, so how they, you know, what decisions can they make with that to actually run their businesses better? So literally, it's covering almost every aspect of our lives, from travel to, you know, tourism. You know, we mentioned marketing, right? So everything that happens on the web, all of those social analytics that are coming out of Twitter and Facebook, companies are using them and making decisions. That's information they didn't have before. It's completely transformed marketing. Marketing used to be kind of fluffy and creative, and now it's kind of hard and data-driven. So, you know, so this is a major that is in demand, right? Companies need people with these skills, right, that they didn't need this before because they didn't have that data. So it's only going to grow, and so, you know, I think they lead to really interesting careers. You saw the variety of companies that were up there on the, you know, that have already hired our students that come out with this degree, right? It's everyone. I mean, literally, there was a huge variety there. Banks, IT companies, health companies, insurance, marketing. So, you know, so a lot of options if you go through this and get the major.
Thank you. Yes.
If you do the BI minor, do you have to still take the two that are required, do those have to be taken concurrently?
They do not. One has to be first.
Okay.
So that you would take the 3100, the programming class first, like your
Okay.
junior year, and then you could pick up the next one.
Okay.
The only issue would be there are a couple of classes that have the
Prereqs.
second one as
As
the
an
prereq.
elective.
So you would just have to be careful of how you plan out what you want to do.
Perfect, thank
Yeah.
you.
So for info 3100 is only provided in the winter?
Right now, that is true, yes. We just don't quite have enough students to rotate and have everything multiple quarters. If we end up with a lot more students, that will probably change, but as of right now, for sure next year, that is when it's going to be offered.
Sorry, I have another question.
No, you're fine.
I'm gonna ask a lot of questions, I guess. You mentioned that you offer some info classes during the summer. Are those, are there any offered like during winter breaks or like the 6-week break?
As of right now, the only thing we have, someone did a travel course to Poland last summer. So it was just sort of a one-off type of thing.
It's not like a regular.
Yeah, the summer class we've been offering some of our coding statistical classes. That's been pretty set, but it's always an elective. It's not one of the required classes. We have not had anyone do anything in the winter.
What's the code for that one, do you know? Or what's it called? Like, is it info 3300? The one in the summer?
The one in the summer, it is, it's like 3350.
Okay.
It's statistical computing.
Okay.
Yep.
Did you say that sports analytics elective was this spring or next spring?
Next spring, sorry, yeah, spring of wherever we are, 18, yeah. Yes?
PC is preferred.
PC is preferred, yes. So here's my PC and my Mac is over there. So if you have a Mac, you got to be really good at it. It's got to have a lot of RAM and you got to have plenty of room to run Windows. And if you're kind of computer savvy and you're cool with that, then you might be okay. A lot of people end up picking up a PC if they have a Mac because we have several bits of software that are Microsoft dependent. Good point.